Cowboys need a miracle. Roger takes the snap, pumps it once. He's going long. Down the near sideline for Drew Pearson. Pearson makes the catch at the 5. Touchdown! Staubach hit Pearson on a 50-yard touchdown. Would you believe it?
Three years ago, the nation's largest retail and entertainment center opened its many doors. The massive complex, housing 400 stores, 49 restaurants, 9 nightclubs, and the workplace for some 12,000 employees, is indeed a mall of the Americas. Somewhere in this myriad of steel, cement, and neon is the memory and legend of old Metropolitan Stadium. Located in Bloomington between Minneapolis and St. Paul, Old Met Stadium was the battleground for one of the most historic finishes in the football wars of the NFL.
Well, it's certainly nice to come back to Minnesota, especially to the spot where I caught the Hail Mary pass. But what makes it even more special is to come back with a great friend like Gary DeLon, who has been such an inspiration and motivating factor in my career. Gary DeLon has been there for me. So it only was appropriate, only seemed natural to come back to this spot with a great friend like Gary DeLon.
So it would have been lower than this or higher than this?
I believe that this is higher.
We find home plate where Hammer Harmon Killebrew of the Twins used to park them, but it is still a long way from the end zone where Drew Pearson danced for 6 to give the Cowboys that remarkable victory over the Vikings on December 28, 1975.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gary DeLon.
And I'm Drew Pearson.
20 years ago, near this very location, one of the most famous pass plays in NFL and Dallas Cowboy history took place.
On that final play, Roger Staubach called the turn-in and takeoff. He threw the football as far as he could and said, "Hail Mary." His prayers were answered because we beat the Vikings 17-14, and that victory propelled us into the NFC Championship game and on into Super Bowl 10.
Join us for the next 30 minutes as Drew and I will take you on a nostalgic trip down memory lane. Hail Mary, 20 years later, the controversy continues.
Boy, it was perfect. A perfect play.
There's no going back, and you can't do it over again.
Now, some of my Baptist friends said I should have called it the Hail Jesus pass.
What has happened to the almost forgotten participant in the famous Hail Mary play? Number 43, Nate Wright, former college quarterback, free agent from San Diego State, and a key member of the Minnesota Purple People Eater defense. We found him in beautiful San Diego, and for the first time, he talks about the Hail Mary.
You know, you miss playing football, you miss the camaraderie of the players, and you miss the fans.
Nate is still in great shape, approaching 50. Drew and I have a chance to visit with him at Old Balboa Stadium in San Diego, where the Chargers played their games in the early days of the AFL.
Nate and I talked a few times over the years when we met at some charity functions across the country or at an NFL special event, but we've never discussed the play.
I remember as I was dropping back, I saw that Staubach looked over to Golden Richard's side and made a punt.
Right.
And I thought he was throwing that way. But then I saw his eyes come back to you. Mm-hmm. And I said, "It's coming this way. I better get on my horse." Mm-hmm. And I started running. I turned and faced up to you, and I was running, and I thought we were running, you know, shoulder to shoulder. Mm-hmm. And I saw the ball in the air, and it was, you know, it slowed down when you're, you know, you're in competition. And I thought I was going to be able to take the ball for interception because I thought I was in good position. And all of a sudden, my mind became confused. And the next thing I knew, I was on the ground, and I saw you catch the ball under your hip and run into the end zone, and I was in shock.
I saw that it was underthrown. I kind of came over like that swim move. And exactly, you were just like that. And I guess, you know, Bud Grant gave the best analogy because people ask me everywhere I go, did I push you on the foot? But Bud gave the the best analogy I've ever heard, and this is what I've been using, is that it's like when two rebounders go up for a rebound.
Right.
There's contact, but somebody always comes away with the basketball. Now, there was contact here, and you know, there might have been some kind, I ain't gonna say push, because I've never admitted to that, but there might have been some contact, but there was no deliberate push. Now,
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that what happens is we're running upfield, and I saw the ball that was underthrown. I was in an effort to stop,
Right.
you know, and I think that your momentum kept going against me, and because I was going to try to jump and take the ball at the highest point. And so when I got ready to jump like that, I think your momentum went against me, and I lost balance. And fell to, you know, to the turf. But that's a nice way of putting it. But,
Very generous.
but
Very
in Webster, I think they call that pushing.
So you were writing I guess you had your story pretty well written, right? You kept it.
It's all over.
Yeah, it's all over.
Sid Hartman of the Star Tribune is one of the premier football writers in the nation. He has covered the Vikings since 1961, when they first began their Minnesota history.
You were there for the Hail Mary catch.
Correct.
Today we finally corner Sid at our imaginary Metropolitan Stadium, where the Hail Mary left Sid and thousands of Minnesota fans in a state of disappointment so severe the shock was almost as numbing as the below freezing temperatures. From their vantage point, it's as if they were sitting in the press box of old, discussing the 1975 Game of Legends.
It's a combination of two things. You made a great catch, but I think you pushed a little bit.
You think I pushed Nate Wright on that play?
Just a little bit.
Now, why you say I pushed?
Well, all wide receivers push, but I think you're an expert at pushing. I think you've been around with the great wide receivers of all time. I think you knew what you were doing.
Now, you interviewed Nate and Bud Grant after the game. What was their reaction?
Bud Grant, you know, he's a lot like Tom Landry, very sober, quiet guy. He said that was the toughest loss he'd ever involved in his life. College, high school, everything. This was the best Viking team they ever had, and this team had a chance to win a Super Bowl. And you were the guy who made the catch to beat them, you and Roger. That was probably one of the greatest finishes of any sports event I've ever seen in my life. And you were the big hero.
Well, you know, it's a situation where it's a sudden death, do or die. You just go for it, you make a play. You get caught, you got nothing to lose. If you don't, then what do you got? A chance to go to the Super Bowl.
You made a lot of great plays in your life, buddy.
Oh, thank you.
The reason you were one of the greatest wide receivers ever played is because you made those plays. And you'll always go down in history. You should be a Hall of Fame player.
There are two men, perhaps more than any others except for Drew, who can vivify that special afternoon 2 decades ago. Both are members of the NFL Hall of Fame. We'll visit with Roger and Tom as Hail Mary, 20 years later, continues. For 8 magnificent campaigns, they terrorized opposing secondaries as Roger the Dodger continued to find his favorite receiver, Drew Pearson, the man they called Mr. Clutch. Now in success after football, both of the former football stars are outstanding entrepreneurs, as Staubach Enterprises in Dallas has an international reputation. And the Drew Pearson Companies was named the 1993 Best Black Business in the United States. It is one of the largest producers of athletic caps in the country. They often combine their talents and expertise in the business world and have been as successful off the field as they were on the gridiron.
Roger Staubach, perhaps the best friend I've ever had and one of the greatest natural leaders to ever play the game. Roger, whose faith, leadership, and resolve inspired us all.
The thing I remember the most, you know, we were a wild card team going up, and that's when the Vikings really had a powerful team. So we really had almost nothing to lose. We went out, and I thought we really played them tough defensively and shut down Tarkenton as best you could. And so we were really fighting the whole game. And all of a sudden, you realize at the end, though, that hey, the Vikings got it together, and they were ahead 14-10. And all of a sudden, you start catching a few passes in the drive, and then we had the 4th and 18, which was a big, big play. And I still remember when you laying on the, the guy come up, the policeman came up and kicked you.
Right,
so
after I caught it.
And I think when you caught that pass, I think the fans realized all of a sudden, hey, this game isn't over yet. So, and then I asked you what could you do, and you said you were too tired to do anything at that moment. So, the play that I threw out to Preston, really, I'm glad he didn't catch the ball. I had total confidence that if there's any hope, that if you get you man-to-man on anybody, that, and then I underthrew it, really, because I pumped too long to look Krause off, and I was on the ground, and then all of a sudden there was silence, so obviously that was good news. And I don't know how you caught the ball. The more I see the film, you caught it almost on your hip,
Right,
so.
exactly.
People started screaming that maybe you pushed off or penalty, but there's never been anything to show that you pushed off, and I think Nate did slip.
The Heisman, Super Bowl winner, All-American, All-Pro, legend. But of all the plays, is there any play that is more significant than this one?
There's not a bigger play, no, and other people I hear from my sister Sloan taught me in the 1st grade, and she contacted me. I can't believe the number of nuns that contacted me and priests that were proud of it. Now, some of my Baptist friends said I should have called it the Hail Jesus Pass. I said, well, I kept it in the family. I don't know what
I recall that the Hail Mary would not have occurred if Drew Pearson hadn't caught a 4th and 10 pass from Staubach on the sideline. And incidentally, he came down out of bounds, and when he rolled over on the ground, a security guard kicked at him.
Frank Luxa is almost a modern-day Mark Twain. He can spin a yarn better than Will Rogers, and he can write about sports with the style of Damon Runyon. Frank has covered the Cowboys for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, the Dallas Times-Herald, and the Dallas Morning News for the past 34 years. Now, as a senior scribe, he covers most of what he wants to and enjoys. He has a perfect recollection of the Hail Mary.
There were a number of bewitching and bewildering things that happened, as for instance, immediately after the Hail Mary pass had been completed, the Cowboys kicked off, the Vikings took a timeout, and Fran Tarkenton's father, a Methodist minister in Georgia, died while watching this game. The further eerie coincidence was on the day that the Cowboys beat the Vikings in the playoff, Tarkenton's father's first name is Dallas. So it was a strange, odd game that ran the emotional gamut from high drama to personal tragedy to a set of bewildering and bewitching circumstances. It was a game, of course, I'll never forget, and I don't think anyone else will.
Yeah, I always remember that year because it was the year of the Dirty Dozen, and a lot of our guys had retired, Bob Lilly and all of them, and nobody thought we could win.
Tom Landry, a man who was so instrumental in my career, who allowed me to play for his team, and who is a role model for every person in America.
You're in good shape. That's great.
Well, I feel good so far. But you never give up. I think Roger was exemplified that as much as any player I ever saw. A guy was never defeated. I mean, I'm sure when y'all were driving on that last drive, 4th and 20, I was saying to myself, well, it's probably all over. But we started about on a 20-yard line, somewhere in there, with the ball with no timeouts left. And of course, we moved the ball a little bit, but I think the most significant play at that point was the Preston Pearson, dropping the ball. Right. If you recall, it was 3rd down. So if Preston holds on to the ball, with no timeouts, then we've lost the ball game, right there. It was great, that it happened because that ended us up with I think a 4th and 20 or something when he threw when Roger threw a sideline pass to you.
Right.
And of course you caught the ball, sliding out of bounds in there. You know, it was around the 50-yard line, somewhere in that area. And when he skidded out on the ice, you know, the guard comes by and he kicks him. He kicks him in the ribs, you know. And I don't know, did you feel it?
I didn't feel it at all. Of course, you know, I was excited about the play, and then it was cold,
yeah.
but
and the guy, it was so funny. It was really funny, you know, because when he kicked him, he kind of, you know, just walked away looking up, you know,
nobody saw it.
Like nobody saw it, and none of us saw it, you know, until we saw the film.
Right.
And that was the most amazing thing of all, was that play. And then, of course, Roger, you know, making the play to Drew, and of course the controversy was always, well, did you push off or did you do this? But it looked good to me. But it was an unusual play. The ball was sort of underthrown, you know, as you turned and you were kind of backing up, you know, as the ball came in, the way the ball came into your side, and it looked like, you know, from the film that the ball just stuck there as you reached down for it, which was, of course, again, an amazing thing that happened. So I guess we were just destined, you know, to win the ball game with that particular drive. And when it did happen, it was like you say, it was quiet, you know, all of a sudden.
I can almost still feel the cold weather, the atmosphere. That's how vivid it is in my mind, and I live with this every day because, you know, everybody talks about this. It's not something I think about all the time, but a lot of people bring it up, and when they do bring it up, man, it's nice to go back down memory lane and go through the 91 yards that we needed to win that football game, and of course climax with the Hail Mary catch.
To overcome the odds of winning in Minnesota was probably the most significant game that we played.
People like to hear that story. They like to have me tell that story, and when I finish telling that story, they look at me as a person that never gives up, a person that overcomes the odds.
And with Why did you throw that ball away? Why didn't you keep it?
I wish I had now. It's probably buried under this mall somewhere because over the years I've been trying to locate that football and no one's come up with it. I contacted the Minnesota Vikings office, I contacted the NFL, and no one's come up with that football. So it's one piece of memorabilia I wish I had held my hands on to.
Nothing has impacted my life more than the Hail Mary.
There have been other football plays that perhaps were longer, more exciting, or even more successful. But none can equal the impact of that lofted pass and a floating football that seemed to take years to descend. For Roger and Drew and the Cowboys of '75, the Hail Mary is to the Cowboys what Bobby Thompson's home run was to the Giants in 1951.
This shows you again, boy, you should never give up. You know, you should never give up.
Nobody gave you guys a chance to win that game.
There's nothing that you can do about it. There's nothing you can change about it. And it becomes history, and you don't want it to end that way.
I don't think I'll see another one like this, but one was quite enough.
Catholic guy from Cincinnati, instead of just saying I closed my eyes and said a prayer, I picked the Hail Mary.
It had to be divine intervention that worked somewhere because it was such a shocking play.
Now the Cowboys need a miracle. Roger takes the snap, pumps and watches.
You could have heard a pin drop in old Met Stadium here in Minneapolis on that frigid Sunday afternoon in December of 1975 after the completion of the Hail Mary. It was indeed a miracle along the Mississippi for the Cowboys, and it's a play still vivid in the hearts and minds of Dallas and Minnesota football fans.
That's right, Gary. Even 20 years later, everywhere I go, Minnesota to Dallas, coast to coast, people still ask me about the Hail Mary.
I'm going to ask you. I'm your friend. You can tell me 20 years later, did you push off? Should there have been interference?
Well, Gary.
Well, I guess in 20 years there'll still be controversy, as the Hail Mary controversy will continue. Thanks for joining us. I'm Gary DeLong.
And I'm Drew Pearson.
And I still think that you could have been caught for interference.
No, we
Nate
put a ball like this.
No, yeah, you used your elbow and pushed off as you went over the ball. I think you did.
Bring it in, man. That's the way it goes. It's a beautiful place, isn't it?
Awesome. The press box used to be right up there.